What it does is it requires Baldoni to prove a higher burden than he would otherwise have to prove in this defamation lawsuit.
If and when their defamation lawsuit is dismissed.
Blake Lively is panicking as the judge declines to dismiss Justin Baldoni's defamation counterclaim. Her legal armor is crumbling and things are spiraling fast. It's a huge
risk, and so it's not a fair fight. They're going into this with uneven risks on either side.
With public opinion, shifting financial dangers mounting up, and her trustworthiness in doubt, Blake's courtroom gambit is exploding in her perfectly polished face.
Juries don't like liars. Trials are about credibility.
Blake Lively truly believed she nailed this one lady. Strode into court like she was the ruler of the judicial realm, brandishing California's new gleaming weapon that, oh so mighty Me Too privilege law, Section 47. One like it was her personal golden pass.
She used the California law as background for her dismissal.
Sorry, Blake, this ain't Gossip Girl, and you're not securing an automatic victory just because you wielded a new statute to the fray. This isn't your Netflix storyline. This is real courtroom, and it did not unfold as she hoped. Let's just rewind a moment. Blake, the Hollywood starlet, Ryan Reynolds' better half, the one folks used to adore on red carpets. Yeah, she just got crushed in court.
So she's talking about Baldoni's First Amendment complaint. And remember, this is Lively wanting to dismiss the First Amendment complaint claims against her. They're saying that it does not allege a single element of the defamation or false light claims.
Legally stumbled hard, and the best part, she didn't even anticipate it. Her grand scheme was to silence Justin Baldoni's defamation countersuit with this so-called bulletproof motion to dismiss daring move Blake, except the judge took one glance. Probably sipped their coffee and said, nope, this stays the whole thing backfired spectacularly. Baldoni's countersuit still alive, still thriving, still ready to strike back.
But is it valid though? If the judge says, yes, you can use California law in this instance, could they dismiss his case because of that?
This isn't just another Tinseltown legal fiasco. This is the kind of turmoil where a premier celebrity attempts to dominate in federal court and gets schooled. And it's not just humiliating. It's costly, like millions of dollars costly. And don't forget, this is the same Blake who's grasping at that America's darling persona while dodging legal bullets. Sorry, Blake image fracturing court tactics, flopping reputation teetering. Well, then we're going to see.
Well, then we're going to see that this law is somewhat devastating to some of the claims that are being made here. And what?
Now let's discuss that absurd risk she took with the new Me Too law, Section 47. One of the California Code of Civil Procedure. Her legal crew shout out to Ezra Hudson over at Manat Phelps. And Phillips genuinely thought they held the magic key. They staked everything on this statute, which allegedly safeguards sexual harassment disclosures from retaliation. Sounds honorable, right? Except here's the catch. It only applies if the disclosures were made in good faith and without spite. Blake's team must have skipped that note.
It requires Baldoni to prove a higher burden than he would otherwise have to prove in this defamation lawsuit. So he actually has to show that Blake Lively's, anything she said, any communication she made about SH, that they were made in malice. And so that's a higher standard that he has to prove.
And let's just examine the timing for a moment. This law, 47. One took effect on January 1st, 2024. Guess when Blake chose to lodge her complaint? Yep, right after that. Because of course she did. It's almost like she waited for the law to solidify before. She pulled the judicial trigger, totally not dubious at all. Right?
To some of the claims that are being made here. And what 47.1, it bars retaliatory lawsuits based on public disclosures of sexual harassment and related allegations, including disclosures to the press.
Now, the cherry on this uneven dessert, her attorney actually had the audacity to call Baldoni's counterclaim a blatant misuse of the legal system. The irony is astronomical. Like, is this parody? Because the only thing that's been misused here is logic. It's just that in this scenario, it looks abusive. This law, Section 47. One does offer some robust protections, but only when you act honestly. You can't just fling it out like a barrier every time someone challenges you. Blake tried to wield it like a Dodge lawsuit, free pass, and the judge was like, nice effort. And here's where Blake's entire case just outright stumbled over itself.
It's just that in this case, it looks abusive.
She attempted to file all this in California so she could trigger her shiny new statute. One issue. Everything occurred in New York. Like girl did. Your attorneys missed jurisdiction 101.
The judge in Blake Lively's case just slapped down their psychopathic request.
That's legal. Tactics 101, you don't file in California just because you prefer California law. That's not how it operates. That's not how any of this operates. It's what we call a jurisdictional blunder, and it could derail everything she aimed to achieve.
Your lawyers are stupid. It's like he's like being nice here. He's like, your lawyers are really stupid.
And now let's really dive into her so-called proof. You know, the material she used to back her harassment allegations. First up, the major one apparently, Baldoni dared to wait for it, remark on her appearance on set. Outrageous, right? No, that's literally what directors do every single day. They evaluate actors' looks, costumes, angles, etc. It's part of the role. It's not harassment, it's called being a co-director, but of course Blake took that and screamed violation like she was starring in a courtroom. Saga.
California law relative to the lawsuit against Lively for defamation is a little problematic. So we have not seen the opposition yet that the Wayfair parties are going to make to the motion to dismiss filed by Lively, but I suspect that they're going to want New York over California law. We'll see what they do.
Then she claims Baldoni entered her trailer to say she looked unflattering in the footage. You'd think he stormed into her home with a mask and a loudspeaker the way she spun it. But nope, multiple sources confirm this was just standard production. Chatter, which happens constantly, you know, in the real world where actors and directors actually collaborate like professionals. But to Blake, that was harassment either. She's grossly exaggerating or she's trying to weaponize workplace interactions. For legal theater, neither one is a great look.
Blake has expectedly filed to be dismissed from the lawsuit against her. Her argument that she is presenting is that the lawsuit in and of itself is illegal, okay, because the matter at hand is pertaining to sexual harassment.
And we're not even finished yet. Let's discuss the dancing scene. Yes, this is a real thing. There's video and audio of her dancing and laughing with Baldoni. No fear, no distress, no unease, just straight up relaxed vibes. So explain to me how you're claiming harassment, but you're out there having a blast on set that's like calling someone a crook while handing them your cash. You can't fabricate this stuff.
It's intensely personal. It's getting more personal. They're going to discover more information that's going to make them angry. They're out to salvage their reputation, so there's not going to be an easy way to walk away from this and say, okay, let's just call it a day.
Must-haves before she'd resume filming. After the writers' strike, most people returned to work with a coffee and a schedule. Blake came back with a full manifesto. These weren't boundaries. These were power moves. The kind of stuff you pull when you're trying to seize a movie, and honestly, the vibe wasn't Justice Crusader. It was more like hostile takeover in stilettos. You know how some people play chess? Blake tried to upend the board.
And we will see how 47.1 can be devastating, but there are certain hoops you have to jump through for 47.1 to apply.
So let's dissect it. You've got a star who tried to cast herself as a victim, but failed to deliver anything concrete to support it. You've got a legal team tossing around brand new laws, like their Monopoly cards. You've got jurisdiction problems. That would make a first-year law student wince. And you've got evidence that dissolves faster than Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool quips.
You are not able to hold a logical thought, but guess what? I, as a judge, I am able to hold a logical thought. So we're going to slap that down. You obviously cannot do that.
At the end of the day, and again, we're not concluding anything here, but Blake Lively marched into court thinking she was delivering legal brilliance. What she delivered was legal absurdity. With a side of desperation, the judge saw right through. Her motion didn't just flop. It imploded in her face, and guess what? That defamation counterclaim she wanted gone still here, still robust, still waiting.
And, you know, so I think there could be some argument about whether it was leaked and shouldn't have been leaked and should they have the information or what it may be. But no matter what happens, this is a damning quote.
And now we enter the part of Blake Lively's judicial disaster that truly makes you pause and say, girl, what were you thinking? Like someone call Serena van der Woodson, because Blake obviously needs a refresher on logic and law. So let's discuss how our courtroom diva thought she could apply California law in a case that literally screams New York from every perspective. Here's the facts. Justin Baldoni, New York resident events, New York-based Blake's idea file, everything in California. I mean, why not? Right, California's got her favorite weapon, Section 47. One that's shiny new, you can't sue me for calling someone outlaw. But guess what, Blake? Just because you like California's legal climate doesn't mean it applies. The court isn't your personal wardrobe where you get to choose which law makes you shine brightest.
It is so clear Blake's case is falling apart. She's destroying her cred. Ryan Reynolds, too.
What Blake clearly didn't understand or opted to overlook is something called diversity jurisdiction, basic federal court principle. Not complex. When people from different states are involved in a lawsuit, the federal court must evaluate each claim separately to determine which state law actually governs. You can't just pick California and expect the court to go along. And this wasn't some minor mistake. This is a monumental misstep.
Attorney here goes on to say, on top of that, Section 47.1 contains a mandatory fee shifting provision that will require the Wayfair parties to pay not only Miss Lively's attorney's fees, but also treble damages and punitive damages. Of course, those would have to be proven.
Now, Baldoni's team did bring claims against the New York Times under California law, fair enough, but they never agreed that Blake's nonsense would also fall under the same framework. There's a difference between suing a national outlet and suing a coworker who launched a smear campaign because she didn't get her way on a film set. Baldoni's legal team can now argue that New York law should govern Blake's defamation case. And here's the kicker. New York doesn't have Section 47. One another. Words Blake's legal superpower evaporates.
Breaking news, Justin Baldoni just got a big win, meaning Blake Lively got a big loss.
So let's get this straight. Blake Lively constructed her entire motion to dismiss around a California law that might not even apply. And if that isn't the fracture in the foundation of her whole case, I don't know what is, honestly. If her legal strategy were a vessel, it would already be sinking fast, and the band would be playing Nearer My God to Thee.
It seems insurmountable. It seems like this case cannot be settled.
Now let's move to something even uglier. Blake's actual intent, because once you strip away the layers of legal fluff and bad PR, it starts to look like this whole "I'm a victim" narrative was really just a facade for a power grab. Let's talk about Baldoni's first amended complaint. According to that document, Blake's sexual harassment allegations didn't arise from any single explosive event. No, they surfaced conveniently after a series of creative disputes, as in she didn't like the direction of the movie, so she started playing legal hardball. You really can't invent this stuff.
It just blows my mind how dumb Blake Lively's team is, and how just, I guess, egocentric, maniacal that she thinks that she can tell the world, you didn't see what you actually saw with your eyes. It's insane.
The accusations say she tried to overrule co-directors, manipulate the script, and basically steamroll her way into total control, not just of the current project, but also the sequel. You know how some people co-produce films? Blake tried to co-direct the entire court case while gaslighting her way to the sequel rights. And let's not ignore her timing her complaint and those subtle press leaks about the harassment. They all emerged after she had her power struggles, not when the alleged harassment was actually occurring. If you're being harassed in real time, you don't wait 6 months and then file your claims the moment your script suggestions get rejected. That's not justice, that's scheming.
They weren't the first to do this. It was Blake Lively, it was Ryan Reynolds, this was their strategy, and now they kind of want to put the genie back in the bottle. But guess what? The genie does not want to go back in the bottle. The genie likes to be free, okay?
And if we're talking actual malice, which the law requires to prove defamation, this is textbook. Malice means the person acted out of hatred or ill will. And here's Blake, leaking to the press, controlling the narrative, and building a legal fortress, all while portraying herself as some kind of martyr. It's giving PR orchestration. It's giving defamation cloaked. It's giving calculated mayhem. Court insiders even suspect she filed her original complaint just to shield herself legally when the defamation counterclaim dropped. That's not courage. That's a weaponized legal loophole in lipstick and designer heels.
In Baldoni's first minute complaint, he talks a lot about Miss Lively's overall scheme to take over the movie. And I think that a lot of that is going towards that she had an ulterior motive when it came to what she was doing. And it seems to me that could form the basis or the factual basis for actual malice.
And for Blake, things are getting real fast. We're not just talking about legal exposure anymore. We're talking financial liability and public reputation collapse. And let's face it, once the public turns, it turns hard. People who once championed her are now raising questions. Fans are dissecting her statements. Even some of her allies are going silent. And when even your own supporters start wondering if you game the system, you know the PR storm is already brewing. Legal analysts aren't mincing words either. They're calling this entire chapter a watershed moment, not because it ends the case, but because it finally exposes Blake's legal strategy as what it truly is, Hollow, all the smoke and mirrors, all the press narrative, all the high gloss. Legal maneuvers. It's unraveling and it's happening fast. So here we are at the edge of what might become the most explosive celebrity lawsuit of 2025. Not because of the crime, not because of the counterclaim, but because Blake Lively, in all her calculated grandeur, underestimated the truth. She bet everything on a law designed for victims and forgot one thing. The court still knows how to spot a manipulator. She thought she was playing chess. But baby, this ain't checkmate, it's just the start. Of the meltdown Blake's legal house of cards is collapsing, subscribe now for the next chapter in Hollywood's most chaotic courtroom showdown.